Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film X, and since this review is for a new film, this is no spoilers, so you can feel free to watch this, get an idea if you want to watch the film or not, and then after you've seen it, you can come back here and put some comments down there, and we can talk spoilers in the comments, so go ahead. We can talk spoilers. Anyway, people might say X. That's a weird title for a film, and it actually refers to something that's going on in the film. There's some people shooting a porn. That doesn't really give too much away just because that's going to be part of the synopsis. I mean, it really is. And yeah, I mean, it refers to the rating, which is a rating from the MPAA for the longest time that didn't need the board to actually rate the film. You could just basically take an X rating and put the film out. It wouldn't really get theater play so much, and obviously it would be just rated for adults, and it's obviously rated for, over the top, potentially violence, but usually it pertains to sexual content, and it was usually just for pornography. So there is an interesting tie-in with what's going on in the film, people making pornography, and the name of the title of the film. But I will also say that there's a final piece of dialogue at the end of the film, which is kind of like a wink and nod to the audience about the title and just about the film in general, which I personally very much enjoyed. I thought I got a little bit of a chuckle out of it. Now, this is an A24 film, by the way, and I have watched a bunch of, not all, but a large amount of A24 horror films that they put out. I have yet to find one I dislike. This one is obviously one of those. It's still good. Is it one of my favorite A24 horror films? No. It's actually very low on my list, but that's also because they're amazing A24 horror films like The Killing of a Sacred Deer, Hereditary, Midsommar, Under the Skin, Blackcoat's Daughter, stuff like that. So this is not the bottom. This is not at the bottom of my list, but it's towards the bottom. Anyway, this one's written and directed by Ty West, and if people are like, I knew that name. I did my favorite Ty West film, The House of the Devil. Really like that. Although, X is pretty up there, to be honest, for what Ty West has done. Ty West also did Sacrament, Roost, In a Valley of Violence, Trigger Man, and a bunch of TV episodes. Actually, Ty West was coming off of shooting a bunch of like one episode here, 2 episodes here, TV shows. So this is his first like feature film in a while. So it's good to see him back doing it, and it looks really good. I gotta say that. Like, from a directorial and cinematography standpoint, this is a beautiful film. It looks outstanding, which I would expect nothing less from A24 type stuff. Quick synopsis. It's about a bunch of people trying to shoot a porn. They rent a kind of like old Civil War era, I believe, house on someone's property in kind of like a rural area in the South. It's an old couple who lives there. And they don't really tell them what they're doing, so there's this kind of like tension of will they find out, and when they find out, what will happen, and then some things end up going wrong. That's as far as I'm going to take it because I don't really want to give spoilers on it, and there's obviously horror to it because it's billed as a horror film because it definitely is horror. It does take a while to get to the actual horror, though, I will say, but it's a fun enough ride getting there, and it's interesting enough getting there, and it looks really good getting there, and the acting is very good in this. The opening shot fooled me into thinking that this was in full screen mode. I actually watched this on DVD through a Netflix DVD service, so initially, like, it looks like it's in full screen, and I'm like, what is that? Are they still putting full screen DVDs out? Do I need it? I literally went back to the menu, and was like, is there a selection for full screen versus widescreen? This is odd. And I was like, no, I don't see one. So I just started playing it. And then all of a sudden, it picked up where I was. And then the camera starts moving. And it was like a barn. It was like the doorway of a barn that was making it look full screen. And it started moving and it started opening up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like an idiot. But you fooled me, Ty West. You fooled me. Got me this time. Immediately, the film has a very strong Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe. Partially because it's in the 70s, shot and done in the 70s, the 70s time period, and in the South, but also because they literally lifted shots from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not so much further on in the film. There's like one further on in the film, but there's a bunch up front. So there's obviously a bit of homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in this. And it also has that same feel. Like, it's kind of like dirty, gritty, grimy type Southern feel to it that Tobe Hooper had done extremely well in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it works really well for this film. It looks good. It has a great feel to it. It gives you a little bit more of like this kind of like sleazy aspect to it in a sense, like porn sleazy slash old horror sleazy. It works. It works really well. So I like that aesthetic, and it's obviously a super nod to Texas Chainsaw. Oh man, they used wipes for scene transitions at times. That is dedication to trying to be of that time period. Uh, that's what I assume they were doing too with the whole like full screen thing in the beginning. Just kind of like these nods to the 70s filmmaking style. Once I saw that wipe, I was just like, oh man, they went all in on it. Although I think that only actually happens once, but it's really all you need because it's for, nerds like myself. There's a conversation early on that doesn't seem significant, but it actually tells you a key piece of information for later in the film. I picked up on it immediately just because, I don't know, that's just kind of a weird way of how I watch movies. My wife always says to me, it's no fun watching movies for me because I don't turn my brain off when I watch movies. I'm always trying to kind of like think ahead and analyzing like, well, if this is in the film, like this thing is talked about, there's got to be a reason for it. And so I'll kind of project ahead. And that's what was going on here. It's just the way I watch film. I envy people who don't always just watch it that way, to be honest, because sometimes it's just more fun to turn the brain off. But that's what So Bad It's Good films are for me. There are some odd cuts between scenes that kind of make you think there's some symbolic importance, or they were just really odd choices. I believe there's a symbolic importance there, but they look weird. They don't like play well, but it does kind of call your attention to it to be like, okay, I should kind of be on alert for metaphors and symbolism within the film. And you should. It's slow moving, but the atmosphere and creepiness factor at times makes that totally fine. Like it really creates this atmosphere and feel that you're just fine hanging out in. So the fact that it is slower paced ends up not being a big deal. I will say it's like an hour and 48 minutes with credits. I will say I do think it probably should have been shaved down a little bit, but not too much. I'm actually pretty surprised with that long of a runtime. But yeah, shaved down at maybe like 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe not even that. But yeah, pretty good. But it is slow. So if you don't like the slower films, this might not be for you, but I feel like there's a decent payoff. There are nice stints of silence in this film, which I'm a big fan of when silence is used well, because it really can help drive tension up. And in this film, it certainly does that. I love the fact that they did that. So I'm a big fan. There's some very interesting scene mirroring that goes on in this film, where basically they'll go between something happening in one scene, something happening in another, and they keep going back and forth. And what's happening in one of the scenes, the dialogue from it is applying to what's happening or what's going to happen in the other scene. That's done a few times in the film, where kind of like other things in the film are commenting on what's going on or what's going to go on, which I like. I think that's cool. I think that's a cool wink and nod to the audience, kind of like the filmmaker, writer, director getting in there and just kind of being like, you guys liking this? So I like that aspect of it. It's cool for nerds, horror nerds like myself. The dialogue is quite well done, and I think the acting enhances the delivery of the dialogue, how it lands to the audience members. So this speaks to the fact that Ty West is really good at writing dialogue, and it also speaks to the great acting. So those two things coming together, very enjoyable performances, very enjoyable characters, very enjoyable dialogue, and I also like the fact that they kind of challenge norms a little bit with characters in this. It's nice to see. Music choices are pretty great in this. Not just the actual like soundtrack made for the film, but they actually have some already existing music from the time that was popular that they pop in there that plays really well in the scenes that they have it. I found myself kind of like bopping to the tunes a little bit. Really enjoyed that aspect of it. It makes it more fun. Like I said, it does take some time before the actual horror starts. I'm wondering if it was like 45, 50 minutes in, something like that. So about halfway-ish, a little bit more, or a little bit less than halfway, maybe. There's a kill scene they start and then finish after cutting to something else. At first, when it happened, like, something happens, and then it cuts to something else real quick, so you don't see like the finishing of the kill scene. And then I was like, oh, that was kind of like a weird place to leave that, and I just thought that was done with. And then they come back to it real quick, and it just like, I wouldn't say it's like a jump scare, but it's surprising. So I was just like, oh, we finished that. Okay. And at first I was like confused by it, and I was like, I don't know if I like that. But then I thinking about it more, I was just like, actually that was kind of cool. I do like that. So something I've not seen done in films before, or maybe it's just not coming into, memory of recent films, but I think we could use more of that in horror films. I did enjoy that. There's something in the film that isn't traditional horror, but people are disgusted by it in society. On a personal note, it made me laugh very hard. So I'm just weird like that. I'll tell you, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's something people view as very disgusting. It's not implicitly horror, but some people may find it disgusting and kind of horrific to a degree. I found it funny. Would be interested to see what other people talk about it. It's probably a scene that if you're talking to someone about the film, they would bring up, would be my guess, because it's pretty unforgettable. But go ahead in the comments. We'll talk about that if you want to. We don't have to. There is an interesting twist in the film. I was getting a feeling like it may end up being kind of straightforward, but then again, it's A24, and I don't think I've seen a single A24 horror film that didn't have a twist, and a decent to good twist at the end of it. So once again, this does exactly that, and there's a good twist at the end. The final line of dialogue is funny and witty at the same time. That's like I was saying, that's that kind of like wink and nod to the audience members that kind of comments on the film itself and comments on the title of the film. I really like that that's where they left it. It's a really nice kind of punch to finish things off, so I'm into it. Like I said, could stand to be shaved down just a little bit. The film speaks to society's puritanical hypocrisy, which is something I've been very aware of. We need to be a little more loose in society talking about certain things, mental health, sex, things like that. Like, not to a degree where it's just like, exploiting people or degrading people, but to the degree where we can just like have honest conversations about these things and just be like, look, a lot of us have mental health issues. We can talk about that. That's not at play in the film. But a lot of us have sex or have sexual feelings. We're sexual beings. We should be able to talk about that too. Like, this film kind of points out some of those types of things, and I like that. It also has some stuff touching on religion and the issues of aging and kind of, how people connect with aging, how that makes people feel about aging. Makes you as an audience member, or at least did for me, kind of internalize things a little bit. Not to the degree of a film like M. Night Shyamalan's Old, which I reviewed recently, but it gave me a few kind of feelings that were similar to that film. So, yeah. That's all I have to say about X. Good film. Definitely enjoyed it. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I was between 3.5 and 4, but talking it over again, I really think it deserves that 4-star rating. It is definitely quite a good film. I would recommend it, especially if you're someone who likes what I've been saying about it, like having that kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel. Like I said, it's a slower burn, but yeah, I'd have to go back and rewatch House of the Devil to see if that's still my favorite of Ty West's or not, because X is definitely up there for him, for sure. But yeah, anyway, once again, would love to hear your comments. Love it, hate it, in between. Give me like a sentence or two what you did or didn't like about the film, and we can talk. Like I said, spoilers are fine. Do me a quick favor, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That is your way to say thank you to me. It keeps me motivated. I'm not making money doing this at this point, so it's just a lot of free content I've been putting out there for like 4 years. It takes a lot of my time. I enjoy it, but at the same time, like, it's also, time consuming and it's work. I could be doing other things, but I'm putting it out there to build this nerdy horror community that's been awesome. And that's why I also look forward to all the comments that I get, because you people are cool. You people are super cool, and we can get super nerdy about horror, and I like that. So yeah, hit subscribe for me. Also hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when my new videos are coming out, and I'm doing 4 a week at this point. Yeah, that's about it. So thank you very much for checking out this particular video, and until next time, keep it brutal.